Welcome back, everyone, to another incredible episode of Chat with Dan here. Now, for today, what can I say? We're starting up an incredible super badass week with an incredible super badass guest. We have Emily here at the show. Emily, how are you today?
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. What better way to have an incredible super start of a super badass week to be chatting with someone as badass and legendary as you? You know what I mean? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, follow, helps a lot. But also, on the description below, you're going to find all of Emily's social media. Let's follow her and let's discover why she's super badass. Now, without further more, let's jump in. So I want to start this whole conversation by throwing out the first question, which is, what initially drew you to acting in the first place? Was there a specific moment or performance that solidified your passion for it?
Honestly, I've wanted to do it since I was basically out of the womb. I have only wanted to be an actor my whole life. I've never wanted to be anything else, and I don't know even what started it. I've just, as a little girl, I always just liked performing. I liked being in, community plays and school plays and this and that, and I just have always had a love for it. And I knew when I was this big that I wanted to go into acting.
There you go. So from the womb, you were already checking auditions.
I mean, I've said this story before, but when I was in elementary school, there was a book fair, and my friends were getting, Berenstain Bears or whatever kind of books, like kid books. I went and I found a book on how to get an agent. Like that little, and I went home and my parents were like, oh, what books did you get at book fair? And I was like, a book on how to get an agent. So I mean, I've always wanted to do it.
Hey, respect. That's like that's like super badass. We're starting up strong. I like it. There you go. Okay. Okay. And tell me, as an actor, you often, had to inhabit the lives of, various characters. So how do you approach stepping into a new role? And what techniques do you use to make the character, to feel authentic, the most authentic way as possible?
I always try to draw from my own experiences, so whenever I get a new character, I read the script. I try to get a grasp on the story, what the character is going through, and then try to approach it just with my own past, you know what I mean? Try to draw in from things like that. And so I think it is fun to do, different characters every time. But I think mainly I just try, it's funny because at first, before I can really get into the character, I feel like for me, my own process is I have to have it memorized completely. And then once it's memorized completely and I can just like let it roll off the tongue, then I can really kind of dive into like the character's quirks and, why the motivation for why this character is doing this, that, or the other. But for me, it always starts with like, I have to have it memorized and then I can really dive in because I'm not concerned about, oh wait, what's that line? Oh wait, what's this thing? Like, it's just easy for me to then kind of go in and draw from past experiences.
Yeah, I think it's more relaxing, right? The fact that so you got the lines, everything ready, so now you have the proper time now to develop this character you're about to perform. So that makes sense.
I know
Yeah.
some people are able to just kind of like memorize a few days before, and like acting is just so fascinating because it's not all the same. You know what I mean? Everyone has their own process, their own way to do it, and I'm always like I'm so impressed with people who can just like, oh no, I just kind of feel it, I just kind of go in and feel it, and I'm like, how do you do that? Like, I have to just like have it down pat and then like have the time to work through everything.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. From all of the actors that I've interviewed, it's incredible the amount of techniques they all have, and it's great because none of them, yeah, like none of them are the same. You know what I mean? Of course, learning the lines might be the same process, but creating the character specifically, it tends to. It's different all the time, so that's great because at least what I see is that for new actors, it kind of it's like a little bit more relaxed to be like, you know what, I need to create at the end. I need to create my style. Sure, I can use techniques and yeah, I can use techniques from people that I've met along the way or people that I admire. But at the end, makes sense that it has to be you because it's you who is about to perform, right? So it's pretty cool. Yeah, that's like more badass. Just saying, we're s- we're scaling up here. Anyway, um, now can you share, a particularly memorable or challenging moment from your acting career, and how did it impact you as a performer?
Sure. Um, so there's a few. So when I did VHS 99, love that movie. I, was Medusa, I was a Gorgon. And so there was about 6.5 hours of like heavy prosthetic work, which I actually really enjoy. That doesn't bother me. But in that prosthetics, I didn't have contacts on. I had like these plastic kind of pop-ins with a little slit that I could see out of. So my vision was very, very limited. My ears were covered. And so it was really challenging, excuse me, to hear the cues. But we had like one shot at that. And so like the pressure, I feel like to get it right, honestly, it's like terrifying, but it helps, I think, because it's like, okay, this is it. Can't mess it up. You only have this one time to get this right. And so I think that kind of that helps me. And because what are you gonna do? Like you only have one shot at it, really. And so I just gotta give it your all, make it your best. There's another movie that I did called Hostage House, and we shot that in Oklahoma in like November, and it was freezing. It was freezing, freezing cold, and I had to get thrown into a pool at midnight, and so it was probably 12 degrees outside, if that, you know what I mean. It was freezing, and so things like that. I really love like being in prosthetics, doing like physical things, like being thrown into a pool. I really love that, but I'd never done that before. And, they were saying the shock of being thrown into the pool, might be extreme. So we have, EMTs lined up to help you if it's too cold. Like, so just like getting out of my head, I think, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to go into something being like, okay, again, you have one shot at this. Once I'm wet, you can't do it again. Like, I don't know. It's funny the things that you like, the situations that you're thrown into as an actor, but I genuinely like love to do that stuff. It's really scary, but I think it just like makes a better performance when you don't have that unknown, when you can't do it multiple times. It's just like, okay, got to make it work. This is it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, those experiences tends to be scary, of course, but the like the what I'm trying to say here is that all of the things you are able to learn from it, you know what I mean? That actually feels good. And when you're done with it, you're like, I like it. Let's do it again. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I think it gives like a little bit of an edge. But then after you do it, it's also like, oh, that wasn't bad. Like when I was thrown into the pool, I didn't go into any kind of shock or anything. I was like, oh, I could just say the lines and, too bad we can't do it again because I'm soaking wet because it wasn't bad. The same thing with like the one take for VHS 99. It's just like, oh, that's not okay. Yeah, I wish we could do it again. Like that's okay. You just learn and then you learn it's not as bad as you think it's going to be.
Totally. And I mean, who knows? Maybe at some point, if you have to somehow repeat something like that you did in the past, you already know how to proceed. Like, I got this. So cool. Okay. Okay. And many actors, have rituals or routines to get into character. So what's yours? And do you have any pre-show rituals that help you to get into the right mindset?
You know, that's a great question. I don't actually really have any. The night before, I always struggle with imposter syndrome. I'm always just like terrified the night before we start filming. I'm like, oh God, they're gonna hate me. Why? They're gonna regret casting me. And that always happens before every single shoot with me. And so in a different way, I guess I have to just tell myself, no, you've been steadily working, they want you here, they cast you for a reason. I almost have to talk myself out of any sort of like, I'm quitting, I can't do it, they're gonna hate me, you know what I mean? So getting into character, it's funny because I feel like I don't really have a problem with that. I have a problem the night before of like, oh God, oh no. So it's almost reminding myself that no, you can do it. They want you here. You know what I mean? But then as far as getting into character, it's for me, it's just funny because I can do all this prep work, I can do whatever I want to do, and then as soon as they call action, so sorry if you can hear all that noise outside of my apartment. I'm so sorry.
No, it's
Once
okay.
they call, and you're with your scene partner, all that stuff that I could have prepped could go out the window or I could use it. And so it's funny. I don't know what's going to happen when they call action. You know what I mean? It's just like, which I actually like because then it's not a stale performance. You know, it's like you can do all the prep and you can try to use it as much as you can, but being an actor is really just listening to your scene partner and listening and reacting. And so I don't have too much of a way to get into character, I think. But it's funny how much wardrobe and hair and makeup really does affect your character. Because when I was doing Castle Freak, I was kind of like a bad girl kind of or whatever, and like getting all that makeup on and being in that kind of a wardrobe really does kind of set the tone. Say as if you're like the girl next door or something like that. Like so, I do think that being in character or in wardrobe, in hair and makeup on set with your scene partner, it all just comes together.
Yeah, I like it. I like that style. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've heard, from the actors that I've interviewed that so many different ways, but it's I mean, as I was saying in the beginning, it's cool because, it kind of shows you that at the end it needs to be you who is able to create that mindset to, jump in. So, yeah. And about the what was it again? Imposter syndrome. Yeah, about the imposter syndrome. I think all of either, actors, musicians, or content creators either have that. You know what I mean? That has happened to me like a lot of times. That before an interview I'll be like, like actually nervous to it, even though that I know that I know my way to it. Before I'm like check everything, like, okay, so this camera works great, so I have the question, so but what if this happened, or I start to create like this whole thing, and what I ended up doing is I'm just jumping in and see what happens and just to enjoy the whole experience to it, because if you tend to get like a little bit shaky or nervous to it, then yeah, you're gonna blow it for sure. So
No, it's funny though. Like you said, everyone does. Oh, I mean, most people do have it, and like it's such a funny thing in the industry to be like, you're talented, you know what you're doing, but still, whatever for whatever reason, it's like, oh God.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like my first interview, it was with this actress that yeah, she gave them the motion, yeah, the motion capture and the voiceover for this famous video game called Resident Evil. And because it was my first, I was super, I was shaky, and I was like, like, what if I blew it? And because I didn't start like any journalist or nothing, I was like, "Ah, so what am I gonna do? I mean, what if she doesn't like the interview and she just ends it at the middle, like I was just creating this whole things over and over.
Mind spirals.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah, I mean, it's incredible how your mind can be your worst enemy sometimes, like literally. So because I was new, I kind of got those nervous to get on my way, and I ended up, I mean, the interview was good, but even though, I mean, I was shaking, I was sweating and sweating and sweating. I was mixing up words, even though that the question were in front of me. I was just mixing everything. I mean, she was super cool about it, and at the end, I kind of understand my way. But it's through experience then you start to you start to get like more relaxed to it, and whenever those thoughts come into your head, you're just like, as as soon as they come in, you just let them go and you just go for it. So
And you're a pro, so there you
thank
go.
you. Yeah, I mean, if you see, I mean, as I said before, if you see my first episodes, ugh. But anyway,
Aw.
that's for another story. Right. It uh
I just said it is kind of cool to like listen to those old ones and then to see how far you've come. You know what I mean? How much you've
That's
progressed. So
true. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that is yeah, yeah, absolutely. As I said, when I was checking like my first episodes and like the first designs and the first, covers for like the whole of it, like the whole thing, it was. I mean, they were not bad because at that point I thought they were really good. Yeah, they were really cool. But it's with that I'm able, to be keep working on it and to keep developing, yeah, like develop it more. And I think that's life basically. You need to start somewhere, and with that, if you're able to learn from those first experiences, later by later, you start to become like more comfortable to whatever you are doing in life. So yeah, I mean, we're just speaking truth here, just saying, love it. Pretty cool. And you just step up to more badass. Um, now, on the flip side, tell me, what's the most bizarre or unexpected thing that's ever happened to you either on stage or on set?
Oh, great question. Most bizarre thing that's ever happened. Um, it's funny how I think sometimes again, you can prepare for something, but then in the moment, your emotions, like your scene partner can do something that like actually really affects you emotionally. That's happened to me before where when I was doing Fear Farm, my friend Tiana and I were doing like a scene where it's towards the end of the movie, we're captured, whatever, this and that. And I mean, through through the course of filming, you do become close with with your scene partners and your castmates and all of that. And so this was towards the end of shooting Fear Farm, and we both just got like so emotional about in the scene what we were doing, and it was an emotional scene, but because I like really liked Tiana and because what the scene was, entailed, it is funny that real life emotions do actually take over sometimes when you're shooting, and which is good because you're in the moment, you want to like feel these realistic, natural things. But when you don't have to like, because I can, some people can cry on cue, some people can't, but when it's like an actual real reaction, I'm always taken aback by that, like, oh my gosh. And then, Kat and Tiana would be like, oh my gosh, like, oh, I love you, I love you. So whenever that genuinely, like, naturally happens during takes or during a scene or whatever, it always still surprises me. And I love when it happens, but because again, you can prepare and prepare and prepare, but then when you're doing it, you just don't really know what's going to happen.
I love it. And isn't that just great? Like whenever that happens, also when you are watching it, when you're on the other side and you're watching something and somehow something connects with you about this character, the whole scene, like the whole thing, that you instantly start to feel real emotions to it. That if suddenly that character you were caring, that you were caring about, if somehow they died, you will cry. You will actually feel devastated too. I mean, I find that beautiful how how that can affect our emotions, even though that we know that what we're watching is not real, still hits you. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. Well, similarly, on a horror movie or whatever, like you said, you're totally safe, but then you're like so in the moment with like the killer or something, you're like scared, something actually like scares you or surprises you or whatever. And it's just like, I love when that really happens. It's like, it just adds so much, I think, to the performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though that that the killer or the monster, it's not real. Whenever you see that thing chasing you or going against, going through you like 100%. Yeah, I would bet that even though that I would get scared, even though that I know that it's not real, I would be like, oh shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
That is cool. That is cool. And acting can be emotionally demanding, right? So how do you maintain a balance between fully immersing yourself in a role and taking care of your mental and emotional well-being?
So I'll talk about Eight Eyes with this because again, towards the end of Eight Eyes, it's super emotional, awful things are happening to the characters. And that whole day, I'm not a method actor. I respect people who are, but like that's not me. But for scenes that are like extremely sensitive or emotional, or I know are going to be taxing, where I have to be super emotional, I will stay away from people because again, like I said earlier, you make like friends with the crew members, you're joking, you're laughing, you're this and that, and then it's hard sometimes to like ha 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 laugh and then like action and have to cry. So I knew this day was like the big culmination of the movie, and so I kind of stayed away from everyone that day, and just like listened to sad music and watch sad things and just like kind of kept myself in like a really sad emotional state, and then was able to go whatever. And then afterwards, yeah, you need to like laugh. I love The Simpsons. It's like my favorite show. It's like I'd watch The Simpsons to like kind of pep back up and just go out for drinks with the cast and crew afterward. Fortunately, that was just like one day on Eight Eyes. That like the whole day had to be that. I mean, you hear some actors who have like days and days of just like emotional whatever. It has to be so draining because, you get dehydrated crying and crying and crying and crying and screaming and yelling. Like it is really taxing. And so for me afterwards, yeah, I just have to I like to be around people, I like to watch something that's comforting. I like to get like a meal that I like or something, a drink that I like and just kind of remind myself, okay, that's not real. You're in the real world with all your friends and whatever. And you made something really cool, but now you can, get past it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really important to actually take care of that. Otherwise, if you get yourself too much immersed into that, might be, a little bit dangerous. I mean, we have seen it multiple times with, actors and everything. And I mean, as you were saying before, that even though that that it's not real, your body doesn't, you know what I mean? The emotions to it and everything, they just are a real representation to it. And of course, that is draining. I mean, like whenever we're having those really emotional days, I mean, at least, I mean, it's impossible not to feel drained, to be like, like I don't want to do anything, I just want to sleep and things like that. So it's great that on your end you're like, okay, did it, cool. Let's let's get back up. Let's do something else. Let's cheer up thing. Like let's cheer up the vibe. And keep moving forward. So
It is funny too because when you're crying all day, like in real life, if you cry, your eyes get puffy and swollen, and
mhm.
you get a headache or whatever. And so it's funny to remind yourself, like, okay, maybe like put a cold compress on your eyes or like take some Tylenol, like do something so tomorrow you're not all inflamed.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I like it. I like it. And like what are some of your happy songs? Like whenever you want to cheer, you want the vibe up to 100 again. What are some of your happy songs you have?
Love 80s music. I love Depeche Mode. I love New Order. Yes, and so I have a playlist of like emotional songs for specifically for like acting like that, and then like happy songs. And so there's a whole mix. Um, I yeah, I like the Video Club. They're like this French pop band. They're super happy and like Depeche Mode, New Order, and stuff like that. Are a couple of my go-tos for happy songs.
Okay. And when you were mentioning that you were, watching like a little bit of sad videos or things like that, what are some of those videos? I'm curious because, for example, on my end, if I watch like any type of video that involves an animal, ugh, it
Oh,
hits.
yes.
It hits. Like instantly, I will like immediately you will see like a tear just falling. I'm like, oh crap, I need to switch it.
Yes. So a lot of the videos I watch are from BoJack Horseman, that cartoon BoJack.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, okay.
There are certain episodes of that show that like punch me in my gut. Then I'll watch that. And I also have a dog, and if I think about my dog dying, that also like you said, animals, it's just like, oh God. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, like mhm.
oh go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah, like what I was gonna say is that 5 years ago, so I used to have four dogs. Yeah, four dogs. And one of them 5 years ago died after being alive almost 20 something years, something like that. I mean, basically he saw me growing up. And when he died, I remember that I was just feeling devastated and when I took him to the vet so they can, cremate it, turn him into ashes, things like that. I was just like I was at my worst. I remember that my family had to take me like had to like really grab me and like take me outside of the vet because I was just I
Yeah.
was just not non-stopping crying and later on that like like that actually hit me and I was like like crap like actually that death happens like really you get used to see them all the time and then one day when they're gone you're like crap
I
so I know what you mean. I know what you
Oof,
mean.
can't even imagine when my dog goes like, "Ah, I can't even imagine it. Awful. It won't be for years and years and years. I
Yeah,
have a long way.
absolutely. What kind of dog you have?
She's a Morkie. She's half Maltese, half Yorkie. She's
Okay,
so,
so it's like a little so it's like a little bit small going on here, right?
they live a long time. She's 13, almost 14, going on 14, but she still has plenty of years left in her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is epic. Now, If you could play any historical figure, fictional character, or let's go crazy, even an animal, why not? Who or what would it be and why?
Any character. Who
Hmm.
would it be?
Any. Sky is the limit.
Who's the limit? Mm, I would love to play. Ugh, I I think it would be super challenging, and it would also fall into the horror category, which I love, to play a serial killer, like a known serial killer, because I don't. I mean, I always think whenever I watch any true crime shows or watch any movies about serial killers, I'm just like, how does someone do that? Like, what chemical imbalance or what drives someone to like do these horrendous, awful, atrocious things? And most of the time they come off as just like normal everyday people, you know what I mean? And so to play that manipulating, slimy, disturbing kind of a character, I think would be super challenging. But also, I love horror and I love gore and I love all of that, and so to kind of mesh those together, I think would be a really difficult but interesting character to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I sometimes wonder too, whenever I watch those kind of murder mysteries, to be like, why? You know what I mean? Like, you know? But
No,
that would be
I
interesting. Hmm?
but
No, 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 no. You, what you were saying?
bugs sometimes. Like I couldn't imagine, you know what I mean? Like it would be such a leap for me to play a character like that because me as a human, like I can barely kill bugs. I'm just like, oh, just go outside. I'll just put you outside instead of killing you.
Hmm.
So I don't know, it would be very challenging to like kind of wrap my head around that world and like how those, kinds of people think.
Yeah, but I think that is also kind of the great thing about acting, right? That you can explore those type of things in a safe, yeah, in a safe environment, let's say, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah. And I like that the fact that you are able to portray for anything, I think also it kind of helps you at the same time to understand a little bit more about how society works somehow, you know what I mean? And plus it's fun. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. Yes. So I
Okay.
mean, that might be a little an odd answer, but I just think it would be the most challenging to do.
Hmm. And would you say that it would be like more interesting to play, let's say, um, a serial murderer who actually existed, or a serial murderer who hasn't existed, but you're creating it in this world?
I think I would struggle maybe if it was someone who already existed because I don't know. I feel like that's so touchy because it really happened and people's families were really affected. And so I wouldn't want to, you know what I mean, glorify anything maybe. Not that you would, I don't know. I
Yeah, I
feel
get
I
it.
go on those. And so maybe, and then if it was maybe someone that didn't exist, it would, I would have that ability to kind of create a character in my, you know what I mean? Just like create someone new and unique and interesting and different and slimy and so maybe someone that didn't exist.
Yeah, it's a tough call, isn't it? Absolutely. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And check this check this next question. If you were stranded on a desert island, it could only bring three movies to watch for the rest of your lives, what would they be?
I would bring, oh gosh, this might be the hardest question you've asked the whole time. um, I would bring I would bring The Fall. It's my favorite movie of all time. It came out in like 2006. Stars Lee Pace. It's a movie by Tarsem. It's beautiful. It's stunning. It's a really interesting and unique story. It's gorgeous. That I would bring. I would bring maybe Come to Daddy. I love that movie. It's a horror movie with Elijah Wood. It's also just super interesting, twists and turns. If you haven't seen it, go into it blind. Don't watch the trailer, just go into it blind. And then I would probably bring Reanimator
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because
Okay.
I love that movie.
Interesting choice. Interesting pick here.
Yeah. Maybe that.
Interesting. I like it. Yeah. You know, most of the actors, when I ask this question, they will give me an action film, a comedy film, and a drama film to kind of cope up with cope with the feelings going on to be on a stranded island. But with yours, you were like straight horror. So I'm like
Yeah,
more
I mean,
badass.
I I find horror to be comforting. I like to watch it. I feel like, you know, it's hopefully it's my life is never worse than what's going on in the horror movies. You know what I mean? So it's almost like comforting, like, oh, I don't know. I I just love horror, I think, you know.
Yeah, that's your thing. That's your jam. You know.
What would you choose? What would you bring?
For me, oh, I would bring. Okay, so I will have to bring 21 Jump Street for sure. I need a comedy. Absolutely.
Johnny Depp TV?
Um, huh?
The Channing Tatum one or the Johnny Depp one?
No, no, no. The Channing Tatum one. Yeah, so I need to bring that one for sure. The first one I loved it. Then I will go. I mean, it's too bad that I can't bring a TV show because if I could, I would bring The Office I would bring it for sure. And you know what? I will be definitely bringing The Simpsons. Here's the reason why. Since it is super long, I will have a lot of content to watch. So, you know what I mean?
Well, if I
So,
could join me there on The Simpsons, I would
you know,
definitely.
but if we leave it straight to films, will have to be 21 Jump Street. Then I will go for Saving Private Ryan. And the last one, yeah, the last one will have to be either, yeah, like a superhero film. For example, Deadpool. Yeah, Deadpool for sure will have to be on it because it's like the mix of all of the things going on, you know? So those three, I would say.
Remember Ryan, man, that would just make me sob every day. I would just cry every day if I watched that.
Yeah. You know, it's an interesting mix.
It is. Good choices.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And you know, if your life was turned into a movie, which actor would you want to play you?
Kristen Stewart.
Okay.
She's so talented. I love her movies. Say what you will about Twilight. I mean, those are whatever, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah, no, I
she's
know.
so talented. I just, whenever she does a movie, I'll watch it. I don't care what it is. Personal Shopper is great. Love Life Bleeding is great. Like all these movies that she does, oh my gosh, they're just like all of her indie ones that she does. They're so good. She's just so talented. So I would want her to play me.
Definitely. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, she's a really cool actress. And also she's like really down to earth, you know, like from what I've seen here and the interviews that I have seen that she has done here and there, that she's super down to earth, you know, super, living in her world without getting
Yeah,
involved into anything, and I like that. So
yeah.
good, yeah, good choice. I like it. I like it. And, acting often involves like a lot of vulnerability and putting yourself out there. So how do you handle criticism and rejection in such a competitive industry, basically?
Man, everyone's a critic out there, huh? It was really hard at first when I first started because I knew that there were going to be trolls and I knew that there were going to be, you can't, there's movies that I love that people hate and vice versa, right? So like you can't please everyone. But it's so crazy to me that people feel like they can say whatever they want to say, no matter how rude you know what I mean, or harmful or disrespectful it may be. People don't care, and so that did it. Took me a minute to get used to that because I don't think I was very naive. I think I thought that people maybe wouldn't agree, but like for if I don't like something, if I don't like a movie, I don't go out and say I hated that movie. I hated this. I just keep it to myself. Like, okay, I didn't like it, but people, put a ton of time and effort into creating this, writing it, coming up with it, funding it, making it, editing it. You know what I mean? And so I was like, I would never be like, oh, that movie sucked. I hated that movie. Just and so it gets it for me. It took a minute to just accept that people won't like you or won't like your movies and it has nothing to do with me or the movie. It's just personal taste and some people are a little ruder about it than others maybe, but I think now I can look at them and some of them make me laugh. I try not to really look though at all because I mean, whenever I do something, no matter how silly the movie may be or not silly, I still put 100% into it. You know what I mean? Like I'm there giving it my all, and the story might not be great or the writing might not be great, but I signed on to do it, and so I'm going to make it. I'm going to do the best that I can do, and I just have to remind myself that, like, you know what? I did the best I could do. Moving on to the next one. If someone doesn't like it, I no skin off my nose. Like they don't have to. It's not for everyone. Um, but I also just try to avoid it because you can get 20 thumbs up and then one thumb down, and you only remember that thumbs down. The hateful comment. But it does get easier. My skin has definitely gotten thicker from when I first started
Mm.
to now.
Yeah, just the way it is, you know. So yeah, I like it. It's interesting how, with this whole internet and everything, it's like everybody got this idea that it's entitled to say whatever they want, which is true, but at the same time, it depends how you are saying it because, sometimes it's true. Sometimes I will be watching reviews and they will be just saying they hate it because like without giving like a specific context to be like, oh, I get it, Sometimes it's just like I hate it because of nonsense little and here and there. And because they hate it, now they want to cancel it and now they are going after the actress. And I'm like, wait, chill. If you don't like something, that's fine. Just don't like it and that's it. You have your ideas, your opinions, good for you. And if someone likes it, good. That's the way I think that if people would be acting more that way, we'll all be living in a more happy place, instead of going after and yeah, it's crazy. Like even I mean, yeah, like they will go after the actors and they will be sending like a lot of hateful stuff. And then I'm like, why? You know what I mean? Like why would you waste your time on something that you know what I mean? So
If someone sends an actor a hate whatever messages or this and that, I feel like it, if someone is playing a jerk and you don't like that character, then they're doing their job very well because they're playing someone that you don't like. But they have to remember that that's not them. They're playing a character and they are doing a very good job playing that role. And I think people sometimes confuse that. They think like, oh wow, this person is like, oh how rude, this person's such a bitch, this person is such a whatever. And it's like, no, they're just actually really good at their job making you believe that. But I also think that there's a huge difference between a quote unquote bad movie and you not liking it, because just because you don't like it doesn't mean that it's bad. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves in this industry is people are so quick to being like, oh, it was bad, acting was bad, this was bad. And it's like, well, actually, no. Most of the time, that's not true. It wasn't for you. You just didn't like it, which doesn't make it bad. It just means it wasn't for you. And like, that's fine. But then to
yeah.
like go off on it, it's like, but you don't understand what goes into even making a movie. Like, there's so many things that go into it. And I don't know. I could go on all day about that because it's such
No,
a
yeah.
pet.
Yeah, I totally get you. I mean, at the end, it's entertainment. If you are not liking it, if you are really like starting to upset you, then just walk away.
Yeah.
You know, problem
Yeah.
solved. Walk away and sure, hate it as much as you wanted and move on with your life, And yeah, one time I interviewed this actress, right? It was right in the beginning when I was starting with Tell with Dan show. Back then I did the interviews on Instagram. So constantly, you will see like the comments and everything going. So I did this interview with her and she was promoting kind of a horror film she was doing at that point. And the comments were horrible. I mean, I was reading through them and I was like, there's no way, I was like, she's gonna leave. I was like, at some point she's gonna leave. Well, I mean, she's amazing. She remains super pro. We went for the whole conversation going, pretty nice, everything. We finished it, and then we were having like kind of a discussion after it, and then she was telling me that it's funny because what people don't know is that she didn't have a script, that it was all improv, and it was the first time she was doing improv, but maybe
That's
I mean, she did the best. She did like the best she could, but of course that she can't say that. You know what I mean? So she just remained quiet and be like, haters gonna hate. That's the way it is. But sometimes there are things that we, the audience, don't know about, and because we are just seeing it, if we don't like it, then like, ugh, it's bad. But sometimes there are like a million other factors going on there. If the soundtrack is horrible, it's gonna affect for sure. If the editing was bad, it's gonna affect for sure. I mean, it's not only the acting, but I think that because of the actors are the face of the project, I mean, they are the ones who 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 receive the hate stuff, and they will be labeling as a bad stuff because maybe the actor forgot a line or did like a mistake here and there, but it's not. So
Said it's not just the actor. It could be the writing, it could be the directing, it could be the editing. Like there's so many things that go into it. And so yeah, to just like pin it on the actor, it's like, well, what would you do with it? Like, let's see how you would act it out. You know what I mean? It's just like, I mean, whatever. It just comes with the territory, sure, but it is frustrating.
yeah, no, yeah, yeah, I totally get it. I mean, I will receive hate stuff every now and then, and just don't pay attention to it. When I'm like reading like the first couple of lines, I'm like, oh, so this is one of those. Yeah, the next one.
Yeah,
People, if people like it, cool. People don't like it, meh. Just the way it is, and that's not gonna stop me to keep creating what I do because when you focus on the people who actually love what you do, it's better. It's amazing, and when they come to you, giving you feedback or giving you their thoughts on something, that instantly that they come from a place of love, from actually supporting you, and that's great. So
I agree.
yeah. So to end this part, just don't be a dick, you know, just don't be a dick.
Sure.
Yeah, and have a beer after it.
Great.
Relax. Um. Now, if you weren't an actor, what career path do you think you would have pursued?
I think I would go into like mortuary sciences. I think I'd be a mortician.
That's
Yeah.
that's that's badass. Just saying,
Yeah, I don't mind blood and guts. I think it's a very sensitive career. You know, you're
Mhm.
dealing with people's loved ones who have passed, and I think I'm very like empathetic and compassionate, and I think I would be able. I also part of this is also because I have had a sister who's passed away, and
Oh,
the people who like held, dealt with that whole service and all of it were just absolutely amazing and incredible and thoughtful and kind and just like wonderful. And it made, I mean, it certainly didn't make anything easier, but it made things easier for lack of a better term. I don't want to say easy because nothing's easy about that, but I think to be able to provide people comfort in like their worst possible moments in life would be like to help people through that. I think would be really rewarding, even though I know it's like such a you're just dealing with like I am so sorry, my dog. Dealing with just horribly depressive things day in and day out. But I think to be able to help people would be rewarding, and also like blood and guts, like I said, don't bother me, and so I think I could handle like embalming fine and doing all that fine. And I like people are like, wouldn't you be scared in like, the funeral home or the embalming room or whatever? But, I love horror and I don't get scared that easily. So I don't know. I think I could do it. I think that would be my career choice.
there you go. Badass.
Thanks.
I, I like it. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And
Different.
yeah, it's different, but it's great. I kind of blame TV. Here's the thing, because when I watch CSI, I used to thought that being a mortician and like a detective, you would be wearing all of those expensive, super cool suits, and the fancy clothes, the fancy cars. And then I met someone who was working with that, and I was like, this is not what I, But because I was a kid and I kind of grew up with that, I had this idea. But it's great. It's a cool thing that you are. I like it. That's more bad.
Thanks.
Just everything. Yeah. And like what motivates you? We all have those days that basically we just want to quit. It's inevitable, happens to all of us every now and then. So what keeps you positive? Like what keeps you back on track whenever you're having those thoughts.
Yeah. Oh man, boy, do I have those thoughts in this industry. It's such a volatile, industry. It's the highs and the lows, and the highs are so high and the lows are so low. But um, whenever I watch a TV show or a movie that I love, that like really affects me, moves me, whatever, or I get super jazzed about or really excited, that gives me motivation to keep going. It's like I want to make movies like that. I want to make shows like that. Like it's, I consume a lot of media. I go to the movies a lot just because I feel like I'm constantly learning when I watch movies or TV shows. I pick up different acting, things or whatever the case may be. And so I do watch a lot of movies. And whenever I watch one, like I said, that really moves me. It just like, yes, this is why I'm in this industry. This is why I do this. Like to make things that move people or affect people, whether it's affect them, like, oh, they feel really great afterwards, or like, oh gosh, it's a movie that like maybe is super heavy or whatever. I love that. And also, whenever I do book something, that high is so high that I just like keep chasing those highs, that also gives me motivation. Like, oh yeah, okay, I booked something. I am doing the right thing. Like I can do this. This is something that I'm able to do and make a career out of. So yeah, so those two things.
I like it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've learned along the way that whenever I have those thoughts, for example, I just shut my computer, throw my phone away, and do something else. Like instantly when I feel like they're coming, I'm like, oh no, you're not gonna get me this time. So I just close everything, throw everything away, and just kind of be myself away from everyone for a couple of hours, so I can kind of regroup, get the thoughts, ideas together, be like, okay, I'm back. Let's keep going because it happens. It's part of the experience. It's life. We like to complicate ourselves sometimes. So
Yeah. I
mm,
know. I do think like taking that time to for yourself and regroup, that is really important.
totally, totally. Just throw everything away, be on your own, do something totally different from what you usually do, so you can kind of disconnect. And usually when that happens, you kind of get inspired somehow, or you will get ideas to be like, you know what, I could do this or I could do that. So it's great. So
I agree.
yeah. Yeah. And my last question, so we can all enjoy and relax after a couple of an amazing questions here in an epic badass conversation, just saying. Here it is. What do you think that could be the best title for this episode?
Oh man, the pressure. Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, it is epic and it is badass. You're right. So, so the badassery of Daniel and Emily.
Yeah,
I don't know.
take your time. I mean, usually this question takes, it takes time. So take take your time.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna, I'm gonna stick with it. The badassery of Daniel and Emily.
Sounds like a plan. Sounds
You
like a
can
franchise.
name it whatever you want.
That's great. I like it. I like it. And it's usually this question when like having the chance to sum up everything we talk about in just a title. I mean, I love asking this question because it's fun because it's like oh, how are we able to put like to summary all, you know what I mean? So yeah. So we'll leave very what was it again? The bet how to be what was it again?
Badassery of Daniel and Emily. Because we're badasses. It's
There you
badass,
go.
badass podcast.
What about the badass conversation with Emily and Dan?
Love it.
There you go.
Great.
Like it. I mean, at the end, what can I say? The fact that you're doing it, the fact that you're pursuing it, you're making it happen, you're showing results, you are kicking ass out there. I mean, that's super cool. I mean, we all know that it's easier said. It's easier said than done. And sometimes we will have these moments, as we were saying, that we will be complicating ourselves. We will be feeling bad. Just things happen, but hey, you're doing it. I think that is super cool. And I mean, that is what I love about interviewing actors, musicians, because you guys at the end of the day, sure, you're bringing us cool stuff to watch or to listen, but also you are showing us that everything is possible, and especially right now in a time that suddenly people is just angrier than before, and you will see like a lot of bad things going on here and there. Whenever we can rely on people like you who are showing us that, hey, it's done. Sure, there's a lot of hard work that you need to put on, but it is possible. I think that's super cool. So yeah.
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 It's, yeah, thank you. That's nice to hear.
Absolutely. So I want to thank you for making this happen. Absolutely an incredible, super epic, badass conversation. Definitely the best way to start up the week for sure. And I also want to thank those who stay the whole episode. Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you like it, great. If you don't, meh.
Keep it to yourself.
Yeah, keep it to yourself. But also on the description below, you're gonna find all of Emily's social media. As I said in the beginning, let's follow her now because we find out why she's super badass. Let's make her viral. Hashtag Team Emily. And again, thank you for making this happen. Keep shining out there. Keep rocking. Keep kicking ass. And I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.
All right.